As we speak, it has been just over 7 months since internationally renowned South African rapper Keenan Forbes, popularly known as AKA, was shot and killed in Florida Road right here in Durban. Now, the brutal murder took place at about 10 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of February, back in 2023. The multi-award winning hip-hop star was just 35 years old, and Keenan was killed along with his very close friend, 41-year-old celebrity chef and entrepreneur Tibelo Tibbs Mutswane. The men were gunned down as they were leaving a restaurant called Wish in Florida Road out here in Durban. Now, a CCTV video of the incident went viral on social media, and to date, still no arrests have been made. But on Wednesday, the 6th of September 2023, KwaZulu-Natal police announced that they had located the murder weapon. Police also said that they were sifting through terabytes of information from calls made between suspects. And during May this year, I spoke to AK's mom, Lynn Forbes, about that night. And sitting with me today, I'm very excited to say, I'm sitting with AKA's father, Tony Forbes, affectionately known as Uncle Tony. Hi, Uncle Tony.
Hello, everybody. It's great to
How
be
are
here.
you doing?
I'm okay, I have my good days and I have my bad days, and it's still very difficult. And in some ways, it's even more. I feel the pain more because it's at that stage where I suppose things have become a little bit more quiet, and one is expected to sort of carry on with life. And I think now I feel it even more, the absence, the silence. I do hear his voice. I see videos, of course, I hear his music, and I think that's something, we at least we can hold on to. But it's not the same, getting that hug from him or hearing that little laugh. And I have my days when I miss it more, and some days are better, but I suppose we're okay.
You're okay. You speak so fondly of your son. Do you want to walk us through the relationship that you had as a father to who we know as AKA, but to you, it's your son, Keenan?
Yeah, Keenan and I suppose, we shared a lot. We shared passions for a number of things.
Yeah.
I think starting with the music, um, that's a very important part or big part of our relationship. We always connected with the music. I remember from young age, I used to play them, both my sons, a lot of the old school music, and Kenan was just, I think he was born to be a performer and just for music. And so that was, yeah, I mean, right up until the end, I used to still send him old school music and say, listen to this, boy, listen to this. And of course, he would ignore me for a long time. And then eventually he would come back and say, like, oh, Dad, that's a dope track.
Yeah.
And I would get that 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. call to say, hey, Dad, listen to this. I'm sleeping, and we shared a passion for sport. Kenna was very competitive, and
Yeah.
I'd like to take credit for that because I made sure that I never lost anything to him. Whether it was a game of soccer in the yard, I always beat or whether it was table tennis, whether it didn't matter. We always competed, and he was fiercely competitive. So we loved competing. We loved playing sports. Having said that, the last time that I did play anything with him was a game of chess at his aunt's house here in Durbanville. And yeah, he actually beat me, the last game of chess. So yeah. So sport, yeah, Man United, we shared a lot. And so a lot of our relationship revolved around, early years, the music, the love of it, the sport, I mean, there's so many memories of that.
Do you remember the moment he came and he said, Dad, I'm going to be AKA, and this is what I'm going to do? Do you remember that the first time he had this conversation with you, or the moment you found out that this is the path your son is following?
It wasn't one moment. I mean, it was just, I think from an early age, we could see that this is what Kieran was going to do. My mum lived in Mitchell's Plain, and it's a double-story house. And many Sundays we would sit in the lounge, and then Kenan would descend from the stairs, and he would then perform a Michael Jackson song like Bad. I still remember he had these white sneakers with orange laces. Um, he was just he was just a performer from a young age. You know, it carried on. We loved singing together. We loved doing karaoke. I remember at the first idols that we had a jacuzzi in our house in Houghton, and one of our family members actually built a stage on top of the jacuzzi, and we
Wow.
performed like we had a karaoke night, idols night, and Kiernan was just you could see just getting on the stage. He was just through high school. He was always he had this big black hardcover book. We would write all his rhymes. He would go to the bathroom and he would have this book with him, and he was always writing. And I remember when he started, the very first time that they wanted to record with two of his friends, they had some tracks that they put down, and they would many as not many, but I remember a number of Saturdays they with these kids that they told us no, they're going to meet this producer or this artist and he's going to help them, and many Saturday they would come back empty-handed, but he showed that perseverance, and then he did the first album when he was still at school. I don't know if you guys know, with a group called Entity.
Right.
That was his entree into the industry, and I suppose from there, just what happened after that was just natural. It wasn't like one moment where he said, "Okay, this is what I want to do."
Do you remember the moment you realized, wait, my son is a star in this country? I think every parent, you see your child as your child, and then there's a moment, whether it's on a stage, whether it's you out with him somewhere, that you're like, hold on, my son's a big deal. People love
Yeah,
him.
I think the sort of big moment for us, the first time he was on radio, on YFM. I remember just after they did the album at school with his two friends. They were on an afternoon show at YFM, and we literally drove around Joburg that whole show listening to the whole album. They played almost every track, and it was this moment like, wow, our son is on radio, and that was the first moment. Um, when did I realize he was big? Um, I can't recall, but I think now more than ever we know how big it was. The outpouring of love, the grief, across. I see it on social media, and the people. I go to the mall. I go wherever I go. People stop me and they tell me what he meant to them. And one of his aunts said that she realized how big he was on the day of the funeral, when we were on the highway and they were clearing the highway. And she said, like, wow, Kenan was big. Because the highways.
Right.
um, yeah, it wasn't one moment. I don't know. It was just, I think he was just destined to do what he did. And Kenan was an incredibly hard worker. And it's something I'm proud to say that I think we instilled in him, the work ethic. He was relentless. I remember just after school, he started, he actually did jingles. I don't know if you know that, at the
Oh,
SABC. He wrote jingles for like a year. And and while he was there, he said, Dad, I'm working the compilers, on the radio, like
yeah.
build up relations with them, get to know the people. He was amazing with that. He taught me so many things, but just like, if you really committed to your passion, or if you have the passion and you really committed to getting somewhere, then it just shows, where Kenan has ended, just hard work. And I was thinking the other day, from when he started out, with the black hardcover book in the house, and to where he is today, not where he was, where he is today. And the accolades keep coming and the recognition keep coming. I guess we always knew. We always knew.
You always knew. Now I'd like us to go back to the 10th of February. Um, I'm very just curious to find out how you found out, where were you, and who called you to tell you what had happened to your son.
I was actually in bed early on a Friday night, which is very unusual, um, in Cape Town. And I only found out after 12, because I went to bed, I fell asleep. The phones they tried to get hold of me. And eventually, um, Lynn's sister's daughter came to the gate here in where I live in Durbanville. And she couldn't tell me, and she gave me the phone, and she put her father on, and he told me that, you know, I suppose there's no easy way to do it. He said, I have bad news. Kennan's been shot. And, there's that little pause where I want to know what, okay, is he okay? He just said it was fatal. And I was standing at the gate. I was sitting now at the gate, like just before, just thinking about coming on with you. And just in that moment, every time I walk through that gate at night in particular, I remember that moment. And I remember sitting just like, I wouldn't say I collapsed, but I just had to sit down on the ground and just, let it sink in. Yeah, it was, I think then in that moment, it was actually within probably 10 minutes. It was a case of, okay, it's happened. We have things to do. And so in that moment, I think I guess it's self-preservation that kicked in.
Mm.
Sort of, as a father, I have to go and do things. I have to go to Durban. I have to do this. I have to do that. And I think it helped me in that moment because, having to get on a plane, go to Durban, sort of the busyness kicks in, and the focus shifts to that and less on the emotion. It's like I could shut it out, like, oh, it just naturally happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it happened. And I think when I remember taking a shower, to get ready to catch my flight, and it was a wind still night in Cape Town, and the bathroom window was open. And at some point, I felt this gush of energy, and I thought it was him. I thought it was him saying, "Dad, I'm with you." Yeah, that's how it happened. I'm a very emotional person, so if you see me reaching out to my tissues, yeah, then you know why.
Yeah. It's obviously very difficult to have to relive something that's pretty fresh. I mean, it's only been 7 months since that happened, and your candid response is really appreciated because I can understand how difficult this may be. I did ask Lynn the question whether she forgave his killers. Have you, and how do you feel?
I'm not there yet. I can only forgive someone if I know who did it. I cannot forgive a faceless person. I think it's a journey for me. I mean, it's a cliche to say that, but it definitely is a process. I still want to find out who did it and go through that and understand it. And I guess the forgiveness will come, but not right now. It's not something, and I'm being honest, and that's how I feel. I don't sit and think about, the people that did this. And, I don't sit by the phone waiting for someone to phone us and tell us, there's been an arrest or this or that. Because if I did, that's all I would do. I focus on my life and the family, and I try to do the best I can to deal with the loss, this hole that's inside of me. That's what occupies me most of the time. I don't think about the people that did it. Although I do want justice. Um, it is slow, but I also understand why it's a slow process. Um, yeah, I guess, there will come a time when we will find out more, and then, I'll have to go through the thought process, the emotions, the forgiveness. I know I'll have to deal with it, but it's like it's over there, I cross that bridge when we come to it. Have I forgiven right now? No. I can't forgive. I don't know who am I forgiving. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying, Carol.
100% sense. 100% sense. Now, with that being said, I think what shocked many South Africans, and I'm certain the family, was the viral nature of how South Africa found out that he had been murdered. Have you seen this awful tragic footage, and what are your thoughts on this social media world and how this played out for your family?
I saw it the next morning, before it came out on social media. When we landed in Durban, we went to the mortuary and then we went to Wish. And at Wish, we got the footage. And for me personally, just putting aside social media, I needed to see that. Um, and I've looked at it many, many times, and I, it's because I wanted to see his last moments. I wanted, and I take comfort from a few things. The fact that it happened very quickly. Um, I don't think there was any time for him to realize what was happening. I take comfort from that. I needed. Yeah, I saw that moments before it happened that he embraced his friend and he had a smile on his face, and so those are the good things that I take from it. I'm a person for detail, so I wanted to see how it happened. I wanted to see what my son went through, and I think I wouldn't say I found what a healing in it, but it's something. I wanted to see it, and I wanted to see his last moments, and yeah. So as for social media, I don't have strong views that perhaps it's might sound harsh. In South Africa, I think Kenan is the third artist that died in the same way within a short period of time. So we have a bigger problem than just Kenan's murder. And I think people, in a way, they need to know about it. They need to see it. They don't have to see all the details, but so I didn't really have a strong view about the fact that it was on social media. I had other things to think about. I had other things to go through. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer.
No,
In terms of social media,
yeah.
um, it is what it is. It's out there.
So with that being said, a lot of people would say after seeing that footage, you would be an angry person who would, like any father, want revenge or some sort of, in that angry space. Would you say you're going through that, or you've kind of, I believe grief it comes in waves. You have waves of anger, waves of calm, waves of pain, waves of whatever you may be going through. Have you gone through that?
I do have moments when I have some anger, and I think, I would see an image of him with Cairo, or see an image of, just an image of him, and um, I would, go through, like, who gave them the right to do this? Who does something like this? And that in that moment, I do feel some anger, but it doesn't occupy my mind. I cannot be angry. I'm determined not to be hateful, because it would destroy me. Yeah, I choose to focus on you know my own journey,
Yeah.
the loss, and um, finding inspiration on in the things that he did, and also applying it in my life, and seeing how I can build on his legacy, leave my own legacy. I remember when, in the week leading up to the funeral, when the students came to the gate, and I realized the impact Keenan had, and I'm very passionate about paying it forward. So in my field, I'm in software development. Teaching kids to code, for example, is something that I've always wanted to do, and I feel challenged. I choose to be challenged more by the examples he showed me, like how am I doing that in my life, and focusing on that, capturing the memories of Kiernan, and whether it's or sharing the memories. So on Instagram, I would post the um, pictures, of us together or as a family, and I choose to do that as opposed to being angry. Do I have moments? Of course I do. It's human, but it doesn't dominate me.
Right. And of course, as the family, I'm assuming you know the latest with regards to this case. We do know that the firearm has been retrieved, and the police are working on arrests and the future possible arrests. Can you give us an update of where it's at now?
Yeah, so pretty much what was shared. We are due to meet with the DPP in the next probably in the next month, for them to give us um, more detailed view of the progress, and also the direction they're taking. I suppose, it's easy to think that it's been very slow, but it has only been 7 months. And if you think about, and I have to take off my hat to the investigating team. Can I say his name? Detective um, Bob Pillay and his team. I'm really grateful. It's painstaking because think about it, they only have that footage that they started with. And and it's not conclusive, and they needed to build things from the ground up. So I do realize it takes time to do that. I mean, the gun being found, I think, is definitely a good breakthrough, because hopefully they can trace it backwards in terms of where the gun came from. It sounds like they have, and they've kept us abreast. There has been periods where obviously it's been a bit silent, and they told us a few months ago that they've identified a list of people of interest. I think that's what they call them, suspects. And they're working with the NPA, or the Director of Public Prosecutions, to build the case, because you don't also want to go to arrests and then go to trial, and then it's a flimsy case and then it just falls over. So Bob Pillay and his team have really worked hard on that, and we have to give the process more time. We have to. I know that and the public is calling out for arrests, and we'd like to see that too. But it's got to be done right and thorough as well. So we still want to give the process and the authorities the space to do what they need to do. So in the next month we'll hear more, and that's just more in the next month because of scheduling difficulties. I'm in Cape Town, Lynn's in Joburg, and it's in a month's time we'll probably have more progress. It's not something that Lynn, myself, and Stefan, we wait and wait to for news every day. We understand it takes time. Sure, there are days when it does seem slow, but yeah, I mean that's where we're at. So they have the gun, they have a list of people. From the commissioner's statement, it sounds like they identified a number of vehicles. Of course, publicly, they cannot share more than that because they may jeopardize the case. And they'll share more details with us. So I guess it's looking better. Let's see. But I think we have to be patient because we also don't want to get our hopes up. in terms of, there's a timeline where, we expect things to happen by a certain date, or because we may get there and find it doesn't happen and it takes longer. So yeah, Carol, that's the status.
And what does justice look like to you?
For me, it's not only catching and bringing to book the shooters, but all of those behind it, including where the instruction for the hit came from. For me, that's justice. Will we get there? In South Africa, the way things are going, I'm not sure we're going to get the full truth. I hope we do, and that whoever gave the instruction is also brought to book. That would be first prize for me, but we'll see. I think we sort of temper our expectations that we'll probably see some people, prosecuted successfully. Will it be everyone? We're not sure.
And you mentioned having to come to Durban. You went to the mortuary, you went to the scene of the crime. Have you ever been back to Durban? And I asked this question because I think for Durbanites, I recently moved here 3 years ago. I don't think anyone in this town will forget what happened on the 10th of February. And, the sore place it took us all, I'm curious to find out, have you ever been back since the time you went to go and identify your son's body? And if you have any sort of a relationship with Durban in any way?
I haven't been back. Life has sort of revolved around. I mean, I flew there the morning. It was hectic because we had to, and it was amazing the support that we got in Durban. We had to do all our business in Durban in one day. From there, it was back to, I went to Joburg, and sort of life since then has just been about, for me, commuting between Cape Town and Johannesburg. So I haven't been back there. I mean, I remember the support that we got from the police, everyone, people at Wish, everyone was very helpful. And I do recall and I'm very grateful for that, the support. I remember seeing some public events, or I don't know if it was the Sunday at Wish, people came out in numbers. I remember the interview one of the journalists did with people parking their cars in the road, Florida Road, and they were playing Kennan's music. And I remember they interviewed one fan, and he was playing Kennan's music, and I could see that people in Durban loved him, and the support we got was amazing. The police, they helped us. Staff at the mortuary, yeah, everyone was, and I'd like to go back there. Not necessarily for to go back to Wish or anything, but hopefully we can take a tribute concert or something to that, an event to Durban. And we were at Joburg Day last week. I even did a verse on the stage.
I saw the footage.
Yeah. If you're going to put a mic in my hand, it just comes out eventually. Yeah, so we're thinking in future, a tribute concert, and we're aware that Kenan had a big following throughout South Africa, and I'd like to think we will do something in Durban as well, because people loved him, and that for me, it just unfortunately happened in Durban. But it doesn't detract from the love that we've seen from Durban and the following Kenan had.
Speaking of, his birthday is the 28th of January, and he would have been 36 this coming January. Are you planning any? You mentioned tribute concert, which sounds amazing. Is the family sitting around 28 January or any other milestone dates in his life at this stage, or just still trying to
so we haven't finalized things, but we're working on some type of tribute event, celebrating, and probably a few different things we would do. if I had my way, we would have a massive party, like I love partying. I love
Yeah.
music. And for me, it's the best way to bring Kienan's spirit, like to feel him is in that way where he's friends, whether it's a picnic or something. I'd like to think we're going to do that around his birthday. Um, February will be quiet in February. But I don't think it's just, we won't confine it to just his birthday celebration. We want to celebrate, and there has been, even Joburg Day. Maybe we'll have something at K Day. Everything is a celebration of him. It's not one, but the tribute concert, whether it's one concert in Joburg or whether it's concerts in different cities, including Durban, it's something we still have to figure out. It's there's so much going on. We still dealing with his estate. There's a lot of things happening, and dealing with our grief, and what we're going through, and and in some ways we've also said, just we almost need to just like focus on, prioritize and focus on the things that's most important right now. So um and as a family, dealing with the loss, and we grieve in different ways, and supporting one another, and doing things, go to the grave together, have a family get together, and that's what we choose to do right now.
Right. Speaking of going to the grave, do you based in Cape Town, you've mentioned. How often do you go to the grave?
I've actually only been to the grave twice, the funeral and the day after the metros. This last weekend when I was there, we planned to go and it just didn't work out. But I know Lynn goes very often. Um, yeah, for me, I remember the second time around when I went there. This is after the metros, and we went there. We put the flag on his grave, and we put the trophies there, and and his friends were there and lit the candles, and yeah, I remember feeling much more emotional than what I expected. It's like I do hear him. Obviously, he's everywhere, still on social media. But when you go there and you see the grave, then and even if I just see the board with his name on, it kind of just sinks in again, because there are days when I don't believe that it happened. It's like it didn't happen, and it's like, is he really gone? Um, I suppose that's natural.
It is very, very natural. And you speak about the Metros. He's just been announced. He's been nominated for the fifth time for the BETs for a Song of the Year award, and he won this at the DSTV Content Creator Awards. And there just seems to be nomination after nomination, award after award. The accolades are coming in for this album as well. It's just been doing so well. I mean, how do you feel that this is all happening and he's not even here to see it happen and experience it with you as a family?
He's the super mega man. He's not surprised. Yeah, I mean, incredibly proud. I, it's just, I mean, Kinnan is, what did he say? I've been winning for a long time. He always won. He always got the accolades. And he worked hard, incredibly hard. And I'm very proud of Mass Country. Um, in personally, I'd also take some satisfaction there. There's some tracks that's heavily influenced and also is sampled from the old school music that I played for him.
Yeah.
Last time, I don't know if you know that track. So I'm also very proud that the way in which he collaborated with with established artists, Kuli and Yanga and so on and so on. And but he also collaborated with up and coming, and that was what Kenan was about. He always gave opportunities. He always wanted to and he always supported people coming up. I remember it was a Tuesday night before the funeral. We had, all his artist friends there, and like solid 3 hours, they all got up and spoke about their journeys with him. I remember Rouge saying, how he gave an opportunity to her when no one else would. And if I think about Mass Country, he showed it there as well. Um, yeah, and Kenan was about the music. He was a perfectionist. And I'm proud of Mass Country and the accolades, and the awards, and the album going platinum, um, says people loved his music, people loved him, and that makes me proud and grateful. So yeah, I'm very excited. And by the sounds of it, it's not the last awards or accolades that's coming. There's something big coming up at BET as well, which you guys will find out in due course. So watch the space.
Watch the space. Now, speaking of space, what we did notice is that when he passed, a lot of his friends were around the family, supporting the family. Do you still see a lot of his friends? Are they still coming around? Are they still a part of your family?
Well, I mean, they don't come around as much because, at that time it was at Kenan's place. So, we obviously gave up that place. But I do see them, and when I do see them, I feel closer to him. I see Don and Les, and I try to spend time with them. I definitely feel closer to them, and the support we had, like that week in particular, we didn't lack for anything. His friends were there, and as a dad, like I think typically in any families, when there's a death, someone has to take charge and organize this and organize that. But his friends took so much off us. The in 1 week we had the memorial, the funeral. It was just amazing, the support. So his friends definitely played a big role in helping us through and continue to do so. So yeah, I'm still very close to his friends, probably even more closer now compared to when he was alive, and for me, it's when I go to Joburg and I spend time with them, it's like I can feel him. They tell me the stories about him. Do you remember this time when Kenan did this, or like they talk amongst themselves, and I feel good. I feel like, yeah, I'm connecting.
How is Stefan doing, and how is little Cairo doing? I know after Joburg Day, she did break down. So I just wanted to clock in and find out how his brother's doing, and of course his beautiful baby girl.
So let me start with Stefan. I think Stefan is fine. We're as fine as we can be. He's grieving his brother. He was very close to his brother, and we all grieve in different ways. Stefan's a very private person, and but I think he's going through the same things we're going through, and but he's strong. I remember the morning when we had to go to Durban. Um, it was the first time that I'd ever gone to. It was the first time I ever went to a mortuary. It's the first time I ever identified someone, and I couldn't have done it without Stefan. Stefan is very strong, very rational, very strong person. So yeah, but it's going to take time for all of us, including for Stefan. As for Cairo, I mean, she's just a superstar. But she, for me, she's Cairo, my granddaughter. She is a child, still, and she misses her dad. I remember my dad passed when I was 3. He he drowned when he went to help his sister, in the sea. And I remember I was 3, and for me, I didn't at first realize what had happened. I knew. I remember going to his funeral and seeing and touching his face and all of those things, but only later did I realize he was really gone forever. And I think fortunately, Cairo had more time with him. But I think it's probably similar in some ways for children that, the realization of what's happened and the reality of what's happened sort of takes longer to sink in. She she but she's a very brave and resilient child. Personality wise, she's like her father. He was a very brave person. And I think she reminds me so much of him, like he's like her toes, he's got these long toes. And it's like, that's Keenan's toes, or she'll giggle in a certain way or pull her face in a certain way. And then, I see Keenan when he was growing up. So she's very much her father's child. Um, but I also think, I mean, she's growing up with so much love around her and so much support. And um, she's very confident. We asked her on Saturday, "Do you want us to come onto the stage with you?" She said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm going on my own." And she went for most of the track. She did it by herself. And I think it's only natural that she'll miss her dad. I think for me, what was sad last week was, there was obviously it was a happy occasion, but also just seeing his microphone with his flag just standing there, was sad when I remember looking at that, and I think she just, in that moment she felt her dad, but she's generally she's strong. She's strong, and the next day there was a picnic at Zintley's house, and she had her cousins there. She's running around, having a great time. So Cairo is, I think she's doing as well as can be expected, in terms of the sadness. But generally, she's a very balanced, strong child.
And as we're nearing the end of our conversation, you've somewhat become basically taken the chair from Joshua Dore as our favorite uncle, but you're not in the furniture business. You've now become the Uncle Tony and everybody's uncle in Mzansi. I mean, when you're introduced on the stage, this is how South Africa's fondly come to know you. How have you received this Uncle Tony for all the nephews and nieces across Mzansi and Africa for that matter?
Yeah, it's an experience, but it's a high price to pay. But I get stopped. People recognize me in places that I didn't think they would recognize me, and they do come and they do want to take pictures with me. And I always tell them, like, I'm not a celebrity, Kenan was, but I never refuse a photograph. Always greet them because I know it's a testimony to how he lived his life and the impact he made on them. And it just listening to them describing what he meant to them, it helps me, you know. It helps me to, and I hear it almost every day. I was a big fan. He was, I'm proud of him, the way he put us on the map, like, and every time I hear that, I can't hear it enough, and it helps me with my grief, and to remind me, who he was. And so yeah, I mean, it's a high price to pay to be Uncle T, but I embrace it, because it reminds me of him, and I have to behave in a certain way, because I am his dad, yeah, and it makes me proud.
Makes you
But
proud.
thanks for having me on the show. If it wasn't for Uncle T, you wouldn't have me on the show. Yeah.
There we go. And lastly, your message to all the fans they're grieving with you. They're going through this journey with you. They want the justice with you. What's the message to the legacy?
Thank you. Thank you for being there for us. Thank you for honoring Kenan, the way you have. Thank you for lifting us up when it's difficult days. I go and I read on social media what people say, and so we can only say thank you. We can also only ask that we know that people want to see justice, and so do we. We ask for some patience, and to to be responsible, in this process. And I guess, keep buying the music and playing the music, and thank you.
Thank you. Well, Uncle Tony, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your candidness. And I'm sending lots of love and light to you and the family. And we will be watching closely all the accolades that'll be piling up in your homes as he just keeps on, getting nominating, winning these awards, and just staggering with those amazing numbers with his music. So we thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Carol. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sunny. Bye.